Welcome to the Texas Agriculture Law YouTube channel. I'm Tiffany Lashman. We've reached the end of February and we're going to start a new series on the blog where at the end of each month, we'll review some of the ag law hot topics going on around the country. We've got a list of several important items for February, so let's get started. We'll start off number one with the Corporate Transparency Act. If you've been following along for the last several months, you know this continues to be sort of a ping pong match of changing news and updates. The latest is that there is no longer a nationwide injunction preventing the act from going into effect. What that means for you, if you are someone who has an entity that was created by filing paperwork with the Secretary of State, so that's going to be your LLCs, your limited partnerships, corporations. If you have or are a member of one of those entities, you do have to file your beneficial ownership reports, and the new deadline for that is going to be March 21st. So again, this has been off and on a couple of different times, but heads up, those reporting requirements are back on. Both of the nationwide injunctions have been lifted, and the new deadline to report is going to be on March the 21st. The one exception to that is there still is a deadline in place for a case in Alabama, there still is an injunction in place for a case in Alabama, but that injunction applies only to the plaintiffs in that lawsuit, which is the National Small Business Association. So other than that minor exception for folks that are members of that association, everyone else has to report by March the 21st. Number two, there's been news in Johnson County. If you followed this, they are having real issues there with contamination of soil, groundwater, surface water, livestock. There's claims of health hazards and damage to humans related to PFAS, which is also known as a forever chemical. A couple of lawsuits have been filed. One has been filed against Sinagro, which is a fertilizer company, alleging that their biosolid fertilizer is what contaminated the area. Another lawsuit's been filed by ranchers and landowners against the EPA, basically for failing to regulate PFAS contamination. And then just in the last couple of weeks, Johnson County has issued a state of emergency, which will hopefully allow that county to receive federal funding to help deal with this situation. Lots of moving pieces there. This is an issue that I think folks are watching from around the country because it is one of the first lawsuits related to PFAS contamination from fertilizer. Number three, big news out of the Texas Supreme Court. The Texas Supreme Court is going to hear the produced water case. So if you've been around for a while, or if you read my Texas Agriculture Law blog, we've previously mentioned a case called Cactus Water Service versus COG Operating. That case is going to answer the question here in Texas of who owns produced water. So produced water is the water that comes up when oil and gas is produced, and there's a dispute about whether that should be owned by the mineral owner that's producing the oil and gas or by the surface owner. The Texas Supreme Court has agreed to hear that case. Both lower courts said that the water was owned by the mineral owner, and they've set oral arguments in that case for March the 18th. Number four, there has been a postponement of a rule that is set to go into effect. There's a new rule that changes some of the regulations related to the Horse Protection Act. This will particularly impact horse shows and those kinds of exhibitions, horse sales and auctions, about some of the testing and reporting that they have to do related to soring of horses. That is going to be delayed. Initially, that rule was set to go into effect in February. That's now been postponed by USDA APHIS until April the 2nd. And then number five on our list is going to be something, just a reminder for Texas residents, a new law has been passed that requires your appraisal district to confirm your right to receive a homestead tax exemption every 5 years. So there's a lot of districts that are sending out notices or forms for you to fill out to continue to receive your homestead exemption. Do not ignore that in the mail. It's going to be critical that you get that filled out to keep that exemption, which helps lower the taxes that you owe on your homestead property. All right. With that, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back at the end of March with some more ag law hot topics. In the meantime, make sure you're following us on social media. You can look for us at Texas Agriculture Law, and make sure you're subscribed to the Texas Agriculture Law blog.